Okay, still just on the cruise back to base, 100 kilometers to go, about 450 kilometers per hour, just at a moderate throttle setting just to conserve fuel a little bit, see how she performs up at this altitude band at least. Just thinking about what I could have done differently or what was different on this mission from the last mission, and I don't know, I was expecting it to be way easier to pick up that column. It was so easy on the first mission. I picked up the column like so far out. I don't know why I didn't pick it up this time. I've got to go back and see. Maybe it was just there, I just wasn't seeing it, or I was looking in the wrong place. And thinking about what I could have done differently, I didn't really have a plan for what I would do if I didn't pick up the column. I was expecting it to be that easy, and didn't really think through, okay, if I don't pick up this column, or if it's not where I think it is, what am I going to do? What's my secondary target? Am I going to just come off the pass dry? Am I just going to, what am I going to take out? I had some other options. I had already spotted some, what I assume were probably tanks, just kind of in sort of a wedge formation out by the road. I could have switched over to them. I could have, I don't know, I could have just planned that out a little bit better in the mission briefing. But all in all, I can't complain. I mean, it was executed about as well as I would have expected. And, just situational awareness. I had less situational awareness. That's unfair. It's so hard to tell sometimes. It felt like I had less situational awareness on this mission than I did on the last mission, but it's hard to tell. Sometimes my expectations lead me to think that I'm going to have just total situational awareness every time, where in reality, when it feels like I didn't, I probably picked up on just as much stuff that was going on this time, but just didn't realize it, or thought I did better on the last one. But just random thoughts that you have on the cruise back to base. So 83 kilometers. I'll be coming back at you once I'm on the approach. Okay, back at you at about 1744, 54 kilometers to base. I was just reviewing the landing procedure, and I mentioned last time that I didn't think that it had a drogue chute or a drag chute, and apparently it does. It doesn't mention it in the Flaming Eclipse 3 manual, unless I've just completely breezed over it, but from what I understand, the keyboard is P to deploy it. That was just what I read in a comment. I didn't go as far. I should have before I started the mission. I didn't think to look for the key binding to undeploy it, to jettison the chute. So I'm just going to deploy it with the P key, and I'll worry about the jettison once I'm on the ground. What I don't want to do, I don't want to hit escape and pause the simulation to look at my key bindings, because that'll throw the timing completely off for the Tacview and for the external views when I record them. So I'm just recording this one. I usually do take a break every 15 or 20 minutes, just hit escape and walk away and get something to drink or whatever. But I'm playing this one since I'm recording a couple of external views and the Tacview just running continuously, so that I only have to sync everything up once, and it's just all in one continuous run. Otherwise, I would look up some key bindings right now, but I'll deploy it. I might not jettison it, and I've got the field inside out there to my right, and I need to go ahead and start on the descent and get into the area. So let me stow the kneeboard for now. Let me call inbound to Sochi. So F5, Sochi inbound. Okay, 179 for 45. Runway 06 to pattern altitude. 06, I was expecting whatever the reciprocal of, I was expecting 24 actually, but I'll take a 06. Okay, and that was 179 for 45, so let me bring it on around to the right, get set up for this approach. And that might be set up, it might actually be because of the terrain. I don't think well, yeah, there was a little bit of wind on this one. I don't know remember what direction. I know it just told me, but it's negligible, so I'll just take whatever runway that it gives me. And while I'm here, let me go ahead and go. I wonder if my flight automatically, yeah, something happened to 2. I wonder if when I call inbound, if 2 automatically starts his landing sequence and he'll just fly the pattern. I think that's what happens actually if I take no action, and I don't actually have to tell the wingman or my flight members to RTB. They just kind of do it. Okay, he told me 179, I think it was, but I'm just going to cut this, cut it a little bit closer and just set up and bring it straight on in. Okay, so I've got the main runway. I guess, yeah, one main runway and one shorter runway, and then I've got the HAZs out to the right. I think I remember what HAZ I was in. I'll just take it in. I won't actually... the management of working aircraft out of HAZs, in these, there's no place to turn the aircraft around in front of them. So what would happen is, normally in a HAZ, you would have like a little pad out front. So you would taxi the aircraft in, and you would just turn it around so that it's facing away from the HAZ. So that way when you shut it down, you can just have a crew come out and either push you back manually, if you're doing it old school, or hook up a tow vehicle and push you back in. Or you could even have a winch in the back of the HAZ that you would hook up to your tail hook usually, and that would pull you back in. But in these cases, I don't have an option to turn around in front of these HAZs, so I'm just going to nose it in, which would be a logistical nightmare for the poor crew chiefs on the ground, having to get you turned back around again so you can launch on the next mission. But yeah, no choice in this case. And I have something out here to my left also. I know I caught an aircraft out there, a glimpse of one, also in the pattern, probably one of the other Su-25s. If it was part of the strike package. But, okay, so let me go ahead and concentrate here. Now, looking back to the, let's see. Okay, yeah, when you're trying to bring up the knee board, which is right shift K, do not do right shift L. That kills power to the aircraft. Thank goodness it's a Flaming Eclipse 3 aircraft, and it doesn't actually do anything if you happen to kill power by mistake. But yeah, that could have been bad under normal circumstances. Okay, looks like, yeah, those are Su-25s. Okay, but anyway, landing. I just needed to check that those airspeeds. 290 to 310, 260 to 280, inner marker, 250 to 270, 100 meters before the threshold, line up, and then touchdown 220 to 240. So light aircraft this time, and I'm just going to take it at fly it to put me at about a little bit up, about 250 over the threshold. Okay, so let me stow the checklist and take it on down. Okay, I needed to reduce my altitude a little bit more than this, so I'll take it out here to the right and get set up on somewhat of a dive, and I can just kick out the speed brakes and do this more aggressively if I need to manage my airspeed, and I will do that. Okay, speed brakes out. Okay, clear visual. Let me request landing. So I've got a couple in the pattern in front of me. Yep, Su-25s. Okay, I might do the same thing they're doing. I might just turn a 360 right here, and just to manage my airspeed. And one of these days, I've got there are like approach plates on the knee board. I've got I think it'll be once I do the C-101 test flight series where I get into yep, got it. And when I get into the actual navigation, I actually use the approach plates from there on out. But for now, I'm not worried about it. Okay, so airspeed 350. Okay, let me go ahead and pull my speed brakes back in. Just watch out for traffic. I know that I had two others in the pattern. And I'll just hold here. Once they get clear and once they figure out what they're going to do, I'll come back. Okay, it looks like these other two aircraft are just falling in behind me in the pattern, so I'm going to go ahead and... Oh, actually, no, they're right below me. Okay, so I've got 4, 5, 6 aircraft in the pattern right now, so I'm going to go ahead and configure flaps down. Okay, clear visual, contact tower. Let me go gear down. Okay, so Sochi request landing. I'll go speed brakes out again. It's like the one thing that I always do, I just have such a hard time around the runway calculating or just gauging how steep my dive is, and I always come in too steep. But I'll make this work. This will be fine. Just coming in with the speed brakes out. Then once I intercept the right glide path, then I'll be right on speed. Okay, so 350. I need to cut into the speed quite a bit, and that'll happen once I bring the nose back up. Or will it? Okay. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so coming in now, and I'll land a little bit further down on the runway just to hit the airspeeds correctly. Okay, 310. Okay, 300. 270. Speed brakes in. We'll just hold it off here. 250, 240, touchdown. Okay, let me see, 200. Okay, drogue brake, or drogue chute. And let me just control it on down the runway. Sloppy flying on my part today. I don't know, maybe it's just too early in the morning. But then again, like I said before, maybe it just feels sloppy. And it's really actually not that bad. Okay, so I still got that chute on there. I don't know how to jettison it. I'm just going to take it all the way back to the HAZ. I'm assuming it's still back there. It feels like there's a lot of drag on the aircraft, but I'll go flaps back up, and I'll just take it on back in. So, okay, so HAZ is coming up to the right. I know I was in the first set, so I just need to hang a right off the runway and take it right on in there. And how's my wingman doing? I think he's just kind of stacked up in the pattern back behind me. Can we slow it back down a little bit so I can make the turn? Well, it seems like there's a lot more vibration in the aircraft. Maybe I just didn't notice it last time around, but it seems like as I'm on the taxi, and in some places during the flight, it was just shaking around a lot more than I would have expected. Okay, I'm just going to for some reason, and here you go again. I don't know if it's just me today or it's just a bad day on my part, but I was using my toe brakes as the brakes, forgetting that I did not have it set up that way in the Su-25. I had it the lever on my joystick, so okay, I'll just flip the 180. So my apologies for the performance. I mean, granted, you're not expecting perfection. Nobody is. I sometimes do, but out of myself, but I'll take this as is. It's all about just having fun and getting into this. You know, you don't have to be perfect every time. And that's the thing about flight sims, is that it's just what you make it. I like to fly it this way, just beginning to end, flying it as real as I want to fly it. And that's just the thing. As real as it looks like I'm flying it, I'm not doing, it's not even close to the real thing. The communications is really, I would say, the biggest difference between this and just executing a real-world mission is that the communications we have here is just not even close to being what you would get in the real environment. And a lot more of the little stuff, like the navigation, the time on target, and all those considerations. All that stuff is just critical, huge in the real-world environment. I just breeze through that. You know, I know a lot of the systems. That's like what I specialize in. I do aircraft maintenance. I was a weapons loader for, geez, over 20 years now, and I know the systems, and I get what I like out of flight simming. And you know, that's what I would recommend is, you know, don't worry if you get shot down, or don't worry if you don't know every little knob and every little thing. Just have fun, do whatever you want to with it. So, okay, let's go ahead and get this thing shut down. Right control, end. That's number 2 coming down. Right alt, end. That'll get number 1 coming down, then crack the canopy. And boy, okay, this is going to be a fun one to cut together. There was a lot more stuff going on that I didn't see, that you saw during the mission. So, you go ahead and kill power. Right, shift L. And it's going to be an interesting debrief, so I'll be right back. And now let's pick up with the debrief in Tacview. It's been a couple of weeks, in fact, since I flew the mission. I finally got around to cutting the first part of this video and the last video together, and I think I included enough of the Tacview in there so that you've seen overall what was going on, so I'll just focus on 1 or 2 things from my attack run. But I guess the first thing that stands out is that these hawk sights, I was already on the outskirts of them, but we did have Sukhoi 17s firing some KH-58 anti-radiation missiles, and this is running at 8 times speed, and those hawk sights did go down, so that, if it didn't really help me out that much, it did free up the area so that these fighters could work in here more or less unopposed. They still do get engaged by some Roland and by some AAA and SAMs in here when they started to mix it up with these F4s a little bit at low level, but I think that helped the air picture considerably, even if it didn't directly affect my plan and what I had going on here. Now, I come into the target area, and as I noted during the mission, I didn't pick them up until a little bit later than I expected. I mean, that's not to say that I didn't pick up the target at a reasonable time, you know. I think it's remarkable, especially when I fly without labels, to be able to pick up anything. But I didn't pick them up, and I didn't get to fly the exact profile that I wanted on the weapons delivery. Now, you can see here that I'm getting into it, and I'm popping up and rolling out on the target. What I had planned to do originally on this was to make this about an offset 45-degree pop-up. So I would come in from about right here, fly in here, turn 45 degrees, and bomb along the road. So that turned into more of about a 120-degree offset pop-up, and that accounts for the loss of altitude, because all this angle that you see right here, having to pop up and then turn that far, if I'd done it from 45 degrees, I would have had a lot of this devoted to picking up altitude and then coming in from a steeper dive angle and releasing at a higher altitude. So I had to trade angle for altitude here. Ended up releasing a little bit low, and I'll slow it down here and just kind of play this. And you can see I'm taking some fire off a Gepard right here. But come in, release the weapons, and come off left, and I got some good hits in there. The bombs did disperse, or I should say dispense, before they hit the ground. I was worried initially that they just didn't dispense at all. They did hit a truck. I think I got a good kill on a truck, some damage on some more stuff. But I mean, that's really not important. I mean, you've got a lot of fragmentation going around in there, and you've completely halted that unit's advance so that they can no longer support anything that's going on. Now, the Gepard site itself, you know, I think I accounted for this during the mission planning as well. I noted that the Gepard site was there, and even if I don't know if I said it during the mission briefing or not, I was just not going to count this as a threat because it's at the outskirts of the Gepard's range, and it's a high deflection shot, long range, maybe one run in 10. It might get a hit on me, especially if I'm moving around. That Gepard's just no threat, and I didn't even take that into account. I knew it was there and there was firing at me, but I just didn't worry about it. And then ground fire, of course, from the target was the primary threat on this run. Now, okay, I come off the target, and it was right about, let me see, I suppose it would have been right about here that I made the decision to make one more run on this target. Now, yeah, I know during the briefing I said that I was going not to do that, but based on the situation right there, I mean, that wasn't just a arbitrary move on my part. That was what made sense at the time. And looking at it right now, at this snapshot in time, it still makes perfect sense to go in for one more run, because the only threat is still the Gepard. I had visually cleared out everything between the target area and the water feature over here that I'm flying over right now. I wish that showed up a little bit better in Tacview. But there was no real threat. I still had the package in the target area. I had only been in here for maybe a minute at that point, probably not even a minute, in fact, overall engagement time on the target. Now, what does happen, and what I didn't take into account, is that at some point, right about here, the Stinger sights pop up. So I've learned from this that, okay, I do have a little bit of time before they're going to grab the Stingers and man them. So, I mean, if I had wanted to make 2 passes, a viable option would have been to make my run and then just not come out as far, just turn straight around and make another guns run and make 2 passes. Now that I know how long it's going to take in general for those Stingers to pop up, I know that I can do it. I would just have to do it in a slightly different way. But, you know, backing up to the point where I made the decision, I mean, yeah, right there's no reason not to roll back in. Especially when you have an ongoing ground battle. I mean, it's a pretty important battle that we're fighting right here, so anything that I could do to slow them down a little bit more would have been helpful. But I just didn't account for that to happen. Now, let me come ahead to where I actually roll in on the target and start to get missiles shot at me, which was interesting. I really just kind of lucked out here, and I'll pause it right about here as they start to go by. I got really lucky on this one, because it wasn't really my evasion to the left, and it wasn't really those 4 flares that I popped off once I had visually acquired those missiles coming in. It was actually the flares that I was already dispensing as part of my just normal thing that I do during an attack, just to have flare going out in case I get shot at and I don't see it. So those missiles do track on those flares that were auto-dispensing. I say I lucked out here, but no, it was actually not luck. Now that I think about it, it was because I planned ahead. And that's what saved me in this case, is that I had those flares going out, and when they fired at me, that's what they went at. If I had not had those flares going out, it would have guided and tracked on me. I have no doubt about that. Now, unfortunately, this is also the same place where the external view lost sync. Actually, I think there was only 1 missile coming at me in the external view, and there were, as you can see right there, 2 missiles coming at me, so I didn't get to include as much stuff externally on the egress as I would have liked to, but I filled in the blanks with Tacview, I think, as much as I could have possibly done. And you've already seen the air battle. If you didn't see that, go back to, I think it was actually the first part of this video, where you'll see that running at 2 times speed, and you can see all that happens there. There's really nothing really remarkable about that. So I'll skip that part of it, and that's about all I have for this mission. And thanks again for the feedback on the format of these videos. They do take a while to put together. It's probably been about, 18 hours of work that went into just this mission. Recording it, prepping, re-recording the external views and the tac view, and then getting ready to debrief, and I'm still not done yet. But for that reason, I'm not sure exactly how often they're going to come out. I still want to keep doing it in this format because I think it is something that's unique. I mean, nobody else does this, and I know why. It's not easy to do. But thanks again for all the feedback, and thanks again for watching. If you want to see more stuff like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel, and you'll see it as it comes out. So thanks again for watching, and I will see you next time.